In Atomic Habits, best-selling author James Clear unveils the stunning truth that it's not massive goals, but the smallest daily actions, those quiet, almost invisible routines, that determine whether you drift through life by chance or rise by design. Success rarely arrives with thunder. Most often, it tiptoes in disguised as something so small that you could easily miss it. A single push-up, a page read, a decision to wake up 10 minutes earlier. That's where Atomic Habits begins, not with an explosion of transformation, but with the quiet rhythm of small steps compounding over time. James Clear begins with his own story. As a teenager, he suffered a devastating baseball injury. A bat accidentally smashed into his face, leaving him fighting for consciousness. It took months of recovery, relearning even simple functions like breathing and walking in balance. Most would have surrendered to self-pity, but Clear discovered something remarkable. When life shatters you, consistency can rebuild you. His return to baseball wasn't defined by talent or a miracle comeback. It was built on tiny improvements stacked over time. He focused on sleeping well, showing up daily, training in small increments, and trusting that small steps, done well, compound into greatness. Years later, he became a top college athlete. The lesson is subtle but profound. Your life doesn't rise to the level of your goals. It falls to the level of your systems. The world glorifies massive leaps, big wins, viral moments, grand successes. But the truth, Clear insists, is quieter. A 1% improvement daily compounds into 37 times better results in a year. Conversely, a 1% decline each day leads to almost nothing. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency. The small decisions we repeat, not the grand declarations we make, shape our destiny. You see this truth everywhere. A writer who commits to 1 page a day writes a novel in a year. A person who saves $10 daily accumulates wealth. A person who does 10 push-ups each morning changes their health trajectory. In a world obsessed with speed, the compound effect of patience and persistence remains undefeated. It's why Warren Buffett became one of the richest men alive, not because he found shortcuts, but because he let time amplify discipline. What Clear uncovers, and what life constantly reaffirms, is that small habits are atomic. Like atoms, they're tiny but explosive in potential. Each habit is a vote for the person you wish to become. If you brush your teeth daily, you're voting for being clean and responsible. If you write a paragraph daily, you're voting for being a writer. The repetition is the real identity shift. It's who you become by what you repeatedly do. This is why motivation often fails. Motivation is emotional, it surges and fades. Systems, however, are mechanical. They run whether you feel inspired or not. It's the reason successful people look almost effortless. They've built systems that make good behavior automatic. Consider Serena Williams, who didn't become one of the greatest tennis players by focusing on trophies. She focused on practice routines, nutrition, rest, and incremental performance improvement. The championship was simply the visible result of invisible habits. James Clear argues that we must stop chasing goals and start building systems. Goals are about outcomes. Systems are about processes. Focusing on goals can even backfire. Once the goal is achieved, we tend to stop the behavior. Dieters stop dieting after losing weight. Students slack off after exams. But when you focus on the system, eating healthy as a way of life, learning as a habit, not an event, success sustains itself. It's like the Japanese philosophy of Kaizen, continuous improvement through tiny steps. Japanese manufacturing giants like Toyota built empires on this principle. Every worker focused on small, daily improvements, from assembly line efficiency to design refinement. Over years, those micro-optimizations created a global standard for excellence. America has its own mirror, Silicon Valley's iterative mindset. Launch, learn, improve. The best innovators, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, thrive not because of one perfect idea, but because of constant, disciplined iteration. And yet, knowing this isn't enough. The real challenge is in doing. Human nature resists small changes because the brain craves visible progress. When you start a habit, eating better, meditating, writing, the results are invisible at first. You go to the gym for a week, and nothing changes. You save money for a month, and your account looks the same. You learn a language, and you still struggle to form sentences. But beneath the surface, change is brewing. James Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential, the invisible valley between effort and reward. Most people quit here, believing their work doesn't matter. But if they pushed just a little longer, the results would appear suddenly, like ice melting at 33 degrees Fahrenheit after hours of looking frozen. The temperature was rising all along, but change happens only when it reaches the threshold. That's why habits demand faith, not religious faith, but the faith that your daily effort is not wasted. Every small step is a seed, and growth is invisible before it's undeniable. The power of atomic habits is how it demystifies self-discipline. It's not about willpower or superhuman effort. It's about designing an environment that makes success easier. If your surroundings support your desired habits, you no longer fight against yourself. You don't rise to your level of motivation. You fall to your level of preparation. If you want to read more, keep the book near your pillow. If you want to eat healthy, keep fruit in sight and junk food out of reach. If you want to exercise, lay out your gym clothes before bed. Each small design decision removes friction, the true enemy of progress. The same principle is visible in America's most productive workplaces. Companies like Google and Netflix design their environments to make good behavior easy. Creativity, communication, innovation. It's the same principle in personal life. Success is less about self-control and more about structure. And here lies the first major transformation of understanding. Habits shape identity, and identity shapes habits. You don't need to become someone new overnight. You need to cast small votes every day for the identity you desire. Want to become fit? Do what fit people do. Move your body daily. Eat mindfully. Want to become wise? Read daily. Ask questions. Want to become confident? Speak a little more each day. Identity grows from action, not intention. Every small habit redefines who you are in your subconscious mind. That's the true genius of Clear's work. He connects the invisible dots between psychology, environment, and behavior. You don't have to fight who you are. You just have to train your subconscious through repetition. And repetition, he says, is not boring. It's sacred. It's how greatness is built. Kobe Bryant, for instance, was known to practice free throws at 4 a.m. long before others arrived. Not because he loved waking early, but because he loved mastery. The difference between the great and the good is not talent, but tolerance for boredom. The ability to do the right thing again and again, long after the excitement fades. In modern culture, we crave speed, how to lose weight fast, how to make money overnight, how to go viral. But lasting change is never instant. It's exponential. Just as compound interest grows slowly then suddenly, so do habits. The effects are delayed, but when they arrive massively. We live in an age of distraction, where apps compete for our attention and comfort is one click away. That's why discipline is now a superpower. The people who win today are not those who know the most, but those who can focus the longest. Small habits are how focus becomes instinct. You don't fight distraction every day, you automate attention through design. To build better habits, James Clear reveals 4 timeless laws of behavior change: cue, craving, response, and reward. The loop that governs every habit, from brushing your teeth to checking your phone. If you understand this loop, you can rewire your life. Want to start a habit? Make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Want to break a bad one? Do the opposite. Make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. A cue triggers behavior. A craving gives it energy. The response is the action itself, and the reward reinforces it. Every behavior follows this cycle. If you eat chocolate when stressed, the cue is anxiety, the craving is comfort, the response is eating, and the reward is relief. The cycle repeats until it becomes automatic. But if you replace the response with something healthier, say deep breathing or a walk, you satisfy the craving differently. That's real rewiring. This behavioral loop mirrors how global brands shape consumer habits. Think about how Starbucks trains customers. The smell of coffee, cue, the warm environment, craving, the act of ordering, response, and the satisfying taste, reward. Over time, the habit becomes automatic, not driven by need, but by association. You can use the same science to program your own life intentionally. Habits are neutral forces. They can build or destroy. The same discipline that builds an empire can also maintain a toxic routine if misdirected. That's why awareness is the starting point. Clear calls it pointing and calling. Name your habits out loud. I'm reaching for my phone out of boredom. I'm eating because I'm stressed. Awareness breaks the unconscious loop. Once you can name it, you can change it. There comes a moment when a person realizes that success isn't about doing more, but about becoming more. James Clear calls this the identity shift, when your habits stop being a list of things you do and start becoming who you are. This is where the invisible work of daily repetition begins to shape your self-image, and your self-image in turn shapes your destiny. Think of it like this. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you believe yourself to be. When you go for a jog, you're not just exercising. You're casting a vote for being an athlete. When you write a page a day, you're not merely putting words together. You're confirming your identity as a writer. Over time, these votes accumulate until the evidence of your new identity becomes undeniable. Clear learned this truth from behavioral psychology. People act consistently with who they believe they are. So, the key to lasting change isn't setting massive goals. It's subtly changing the story you tell yourself. You see this everywhere in real life. Consider James Clear's example of a smoker who quits. If you offer him a cigarette and he says, "I'm trying to quit," he still identifies as a smoker, just one attempting change. But if he says, "No thanks, I don't smoke," his identity has shifted. That difference in self-concept is monumental. The former fights against his old self. The latter has already become his new one. In the American workplace, this same shift drives cultural excellence. At Amazon, employees are encouraged to act like owners, not workers. That identity, ownership, shapes every action, from how they innovate to how they solve problems. It's not a slogan. It's a habit of self-perception that ripples across behavior. The same identity principle explains why certain individuals sustain success after failure. Take Oprah Winfrey, for instance. Her rise from poverty wasn't a one-time breakthrough. It was a lifelong redefinition of identity. From a young girl told she'd never matter, she developed the inner narrative that she was a voice for others. Her habits, reading, learning, communicating, empathizing, all grew from that self-concept. She didn't set a goal to be Oprah. She became Oprah one disciplined habit at a time. This identity-based approach to habits reflects a global truth. Across cultures, transformation often begins not with massive external change, but with a small internal redefinition. The ancient Greeks called it ethos, character built through consistent practice. The Japanese call it shokunin, mastery through devotion to craft. James Clear reframes this wisdom for the modern world. Build identity first, results second. But identity doesn't evolve in isolation. The environment you live in, physical, digital, emotional, either nurtures or sabotages your growth. That's why Clear insists that environment design is self-discipline without effort. Instead of trying to summon endless willpower, structure your surroundings so the right choice becomes the easy one. If your phone distracts you, leave it in another room while working. If you want to eat better, put fruit on the counter and hide junk food. If you want to read more, keep a book by your bedside instead of the TV remote. The mind naturally follows visual cues. Whatever is obvious becomes automatic. This principle is what makes habit architecture so powerful. People don't realize how much their surroundings control them. You don't need to resist temptation if you never see it. You don't need to force focus if you remove distraction. You don't need to pray for consistency if your environment already supports it. In the real world, this truth defines the difference between chaos and excellence. In Japan, train operators famously point at signals and call out actions. Signal green. Doors closing. A ritual designed to reduce error. It's not about shouting commands. It's about designing awareness into behavior. The same method works personally. When you design your environment for clarity, you reduce the chance of failure. The opposite is true too. Environments filled with triggers of bad habits make discipline nearly impossible. A fridge stocked with soda invites indulgence. A cluttered workspace discourages focus. A toxic social circle normalizes mediocrity. That's why one of the hardest but most transformative steps you can take is changing your tribe, surrounding yourself with people whose habits reflect your future, not your past. Social identity shapes personal behavior more than logic does. If everyone around you exercises, eats well, or reads, you will too. Not because you're motivated, but because your environment demands it. That's how culture is formed. Shared habits repeated long enough to become invisible rules. Clear's insight here parallels one of the greatest American success stories, the rise of Silicon Valley. In the 1980s and 1990s, the Bay Area became an ecosystem of shared innovation habits, open collaboration, rapid iteration, and a deep comfort with failure. A new entrepreneur entering that environment didn't just build a product, they adopted an identity, an innovator's mindset. The environment itself demanded excellence. On a smaller scale, you can engineer that same magic in your own life. Want to think bigger? Surround yourself with thinkers. Want to build discipline? Spend time with the disciplined. Habits are contagious. The subconscious mirrors the behavior of the tribe. But let's be honest, changing environments and identities takes courage because it often means leaving comfort zones. That's where most people stall. They underestimate how deeply they're shaped by surroundings and overestimate their willpower. That's why Clear's advice feels revolutionary yet practical. Stop trying to change in the same place where you failed. Change the context, and your behavior will follow. Once your environment is set, the next challenge is staying consistent when progress is invisible, that quiet valley between starting and succeeding. Most people fail here not because they lack ability, but because they misread silence as failure. Think about bamboo. For the first 5 years after planting, nothing seems to happen, just a small shoot above the soil. But beneath the surface, roots are spreading, anchoring, preparing. Then, in a single season, bamboo grows up to 90 feet. Success in habits works the same way. You can't rush compound growth. You can only trust it. Clear calls this the valley of disappointment, the gap between expectation and reality, where visible results lag behind effort. Many give up too soon because they misjudge that gap. But the masters, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, see it differently. They know progress is a lagging measure of habits. Weight loss is a lagging measure of eating habits. Wealth is a lagging measure of financial habits. Knowledge is a lagging measure of learning habits. The outcome always follows the input, just not instantly. This idea reshapes how we define success. Instead of chasing quick results, we chase repetition. Instead of asking, how fast can I get there? We ask, how long can I keep going? It's why Clear describes the power of streaks, the simple act of not breaking the chain. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld used to mark an X on his calendar every day he wrote jokes. His rule, don't break the chain. The chain, not the motivation, keeps you moving. The satisfaction of consistency becomes its own reward. You see this principle at work in tech companies today. Duolingo, the language learning app, gamifies streaks, not because streaks teach languages directly, but because consistency does. Their users stay engaged because their brains crave completion, not just progress. It's psychology turned into structure. But even streaks can fade if you don't account for plateaus, the point where progress slows despite effort. Every gym-goer, artist, or entrepreneur faces this. When the novelty fades, boredom sets in. That's when amateurs quit and professionals keep going. Clear says, you have to fall in love with boredom. True mastery isn't about excitement. It's about patience. Elite performers understand this. Consider Kobe Bryant, who practiced the same shot thousands of times. Or Stephen Curry, who repeats three-point drills until muscle memory overrides fatigue. The difference between great and legendary isn't talent. It's the willingness to repeat excellence until it becomes reflex. Clear's principle applies beyond sports. Writers, engineers, doctors, and entrepreneurs all master through repetition. Steve Jobs rehearsed product presentations dozens of times, down to every pause and gesture. That's not obsession, it's craftsmanship. Discipline, not drama, creates greatness. And here's where a deep paradox emerges. When your habits become automatic, success feels effortless. But that's not laziness, it's alignment. Your conscious and subconscious are finally moving in the same direction. You've trained your mind to act like the person you want to be without resistance. That's the highest form of freedom. However, there's a hidden danger. Success can breed complacency. When you improve, comfort tempts you to stop improving. James Clear warns against this. Success is not a finish line. It's a starting point for refinement. Systems must evolve. You don't stop sharpening the blade because you've already cut something well. Look at Elon Musk. After building PayPal, he didn't retire. He used the systems he'd built, discipline, innovation, risk tolerance, to start SpaceX and Tesla. Each venture demanded the same principles: small improvements, ruthless iteration, long-term vision. Success didn't slow him. It fueled his next habit system. In your own life, you can build this mindset by focusing on identity upgrades rather than outcome upgrades. Don't aim to run a marathon. Aim to become a runner. Don't try to lose weight. Aim to live healthily. This subtle shift keeps your habits alive long after the first victory. The reason this works is biological. The brain rewires itself through repetition, a concept called neuroplasticity. Each repeated action strengthens the neural pathway associated with it, making the behavior easier next time. Over weeks, the habit becomes automatic. Over months, it becomes part of your personality. Over years, it becomes destiny. That's why Clear's framework transcends time and culture. Whether you're a student in Nigeria, an entrepreneur in New York, or a creative in Tokyo, the principle holds. What you repeat, you become. The world is full of talent. What's rare is consistency. When people hear the word mastery, they imagine brilliance, prodigies, overnight success, flashes of genius. But James Clear dismantles that myth with precision. Mastery, he insists, is not about sudden leaps. It's about endless micro-adjustments, the refinement of thousands of tiny behaviors until excellence becomes second nature. A person who performs at the highest level isn't more gifted, they are more consistent. They've simply repeated the right behaviors long enough for the world to call it genius. Every Olympian, musician, or CEO is proof that extraordinary results are built on ordinary acts, done consistently, deliberately, and without excuse. Clear calls this the power of compound growth, the idea that small habits compound like interest. If you improve just 1% each day, you'll be 37 times better by year's end. The math isn't the magic, the mindset is. It redefines success as a process, not an event. You can see this philosophy reflected in Warren Buffett's life. Buffett never sought quick riches, he sought compound returns. He once said, "Wealth grows like a snowball. You just have to start rolling early and let it build." The same principle governs habits. Each small action, each saving, each workout, each study session compounds silently until it breaks the surface in visible success. But here's the subtlety. Compounding works both ways. Bad habits compound as surely as good ones. Missing one workout may seem small, but missing consistently builds the identity of someone who gives up easily. Ignoring feedback might feel comfortable now, but over time it compounds into stagnation. The law of compound behavior doesn't judge. It simply multiplies whatever you feed it. So the question becomes, what are you compounding daily? This awareness leads us to one of Clear's most practical concepts, habit stacking. The brain craves cues and patterns. When you link a new habit to an existing one, you ride the momentum of routine. For instance, if you already drink coffee every morning, you can say, "After I pour my coffee, I'll read one page of a book." Soon, reading becomes as automatic as brewing. You can stack any two behaviors this way. After I brush my teeth, I'll meditate for 1 minute. After I open my laptop, I'll write one paragraph. Each link builds a chain of progress. Over time, your day becomes a sequence of intentional cues, a self-reinforcing loop of growth. This technique has transformed countless lives. A young designer from India once wrote that atomic habits helped him build a creative ritual. He attached his drawing practice to his morning tea routine. While the tea brews, I sketch one concept. That 5-minute ritual evolved into a full-time design business within 2 years. He didn't find motivation, he engineered it. In the US, this same logic has revolutionized fitness culture. Instead of chasing high-intensity programs, trainers now emphasize habit stacking, small, repeatable actions like doing 10 push-ups after brushing your teeth or taking a 5-minute walk after lunch. It's no longer about discipline through force, it's discipline through rhythm. However, Clear warns, as easy as it is to build good habits, it's just as easy to let bad ones creep in. The antidote is awareness, knowing how habits form and using that knowledge to reverse them. He explains the 4 laws of behavior change in reverse for breaking bad habits. 1. Make it invisible. Remove the cue. 2. Make it unattractive. Reframe your mindset about the habit. 3. Make it difficult. Add friction between you and the behavior. 4. Make it unsatisfying. Associate it with accountability or pain. Take social media addiction, one of our era's most universal struggles. If your phone is the cue, keep it out of sight during focus hours, invisible. Reframe scrolling as draining your creative energy, unattractive. Log out or uninstall apps daily, difficult. And track your wasted time to remind yourself of the cost, unsatisfying. The same principles apply globally. In Japan, minimalist living culture flourished as a reaction to cluttered modern life. By removing visual cues of consumerism, people naturally bought less. The cue disappeared, the habit faded. But knowing how to break habits isn't enough. We must also guard against identity erosion. Each small compromise weakens who we think we are. A single lie, skipped workout, or missed deadline may seem harmless, but it chips away at integrity. That's why Clear emphasizes never miss twice. Everyone slips, but the key is to catch yourself quickly. Missing once is a mistake. Missing twice is a pattern. It's not perfection that matters. It's recovery. Professionals recover faster than amateurs. This principle can be seen in the most resilient performers on Earth, Navy SEALs. Their training isn't about being flawless. It's about recovering from fatigue, fear, and failure faster than anyone else. Every drill teaches one truth: consistency under chaos. Likewise, in the world of business, Starbucks uses habit loops to train employees. They practice scripts for high-stress customer interactions until reactions become automatic. When a problem arises, employees don't panic. They perform. That's not luck. It's rehearsed habit resilience. At a deeper level, Clear connects habits to emotion. Our brains repeat what feels rewarding. So the key is to make good habits feel satisfying. Celebrate small wins. Reward yourself for keeping promises to yourself. Progress itself must feel pleasurable. This is why fitness apps now use progress tracking and celebration screens. Each checkmark, each notification releases dopamine, reinforcing the habit. This neurochemical trick turns effort into enjoyment. But this idea goes far beyond apps. It's psychological truth. People sustain what feels good. When you associate discipline with pride instead of pain, consistency becomes natural. Instead of "I have to do this," your mind shifts to "I get to do this." Still, Clear doesn't romanticize habits. He knows that behind every small success lies the battle against self-sabotage, laziness, fear, distraction. The true purpose of discipline is not to eliminate these forces, but to outlast them. That's why he ends the book with a profound idea. True success is the gradual alignment of your daily habits with your deepest values. Think of habits as votes, identity as government, and values as constitution. Every choice either strengthens or violates that constitution. You cannot control outcomes, but you can control alignment, and alignment, sustained, creates destiny. One of the most powerful modern illustrations of this is James Clear's own story. Before he became a global author, he suffered a horrific baseball injury in college. A bat struck his face, leaving him near death. Recovery was slow, painful, and uncertain. But his comeback didn't come from heroic goals. It came from microscopic habits. One step at a time. One page at a time. One improvement at a time. That's how he rebuilt his identity, his strength, and eventually his career. From that pain emerged a philosophy. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. Goals give direction. Systems build momentum. This distinction between goals and systems reshapes everything. Goals are about outcomes. Systems are about processes. Goals can motivate, but systems sustain. A writer's goal may be to finish a novel, but their system is writing 500 words daily. A runner's goal may be to complete a marathon, but their system is training every morning. Success happens when you fall in love with the process, not the product. The modern world proves this again and again. Tesla's engineering success didn't emerge from a singular mission to make electric cars. It came from systems of innovation, iterative testing, feedback loops, and continuous improvement. Similarly, Apple's design culture isn't built on a goal to create beautiful products. It's a system of relentless refinement, small daily choices that uphold simplicity and elegance. Even individuals outside corporate empires live by these truths. Serena Williams, one of the greatest athletes of all time, once said, "I don't practice until I get it right." I practice until I can't get it wrong. That's not ambition. That's atomic discipline. And this is where Clear's message transcends self-help. It becomes philosophy. Habits aren't merely tools for productivity. They are the architecture of character. Every repeated act writes a line in the story of who you are becoming. In a noisy world that glorifies overnight success, Clear's wisdom is revolutionary in its simplicity. Greatness is not born in intensity, it's born in consistency. Across cultures and generations, this truth echoes. The monk repeating prayers, the artist sketching daily, the coder refining one line at a time. They all embody the same law. Small actions, done well, accumulate into miracles. And so, the lesson of atomic habits is ultimately spiritual. Success is not something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become through repetition. Your habits are not chores. They are prayers, small rituals of becoming. In the end, what we truly seek is not success itself, but the peace that comes from living in alignment with who we wish to be. So when you wake tomorrow, don't ask, "What must I achieve today?" Ask instead, "What kind of person am I proving myself to be today?" Because every time you choose progress over comfort, focus over distraction, and consistency over chaos, you are quietly changing your world, one atomic habit at a time. If this message resonated with you, subscribe and join us for more wisdom that fuels growth.